Hello, friends. This is Scott, and this is a flashback to late June. And down at the homestead, we're 6,300 feet above sea level. So in Salt Lake area, it's safe to plant tomatoes probably by Mother's Day. But down here, I waited till May 30th to plant just to be safe, give it a couple extra weeks due to the colder temperatures. Now, the plants grew well, and I just planted them, and I have the really nice tomato cages, the heavy-duty ones. And I'm not a tomato pruner, so I just, I let them grow, and whatever they do, they do. I think, pinching the tops off is a good idea when they get to a certain height, but I didn't even do that this year. Again, I did not add any fertility to this ground except for the one scoop of screened compost from my in-ground trampoline pit in Salt Lake City, and that's the only fertility that these plants have had all season. So, waiting to see when I was going to get my first tomato, and happy with the growth of the tomatoes. Again, they're wild and unpruned and out of control, but that's fine. Obviously, the peppers and everything were doing well too. But I'm still waiting. And usually in Salt Lake area, if you get a tomato by the 4th of July, that's a really good year. And with climate change, usually it's the end of July, early August. But I had tomatoes coming on, but I patiently waited and waited and waited. Well, really all that happened was my chickens were getting the tomatoes, eating all the green tomatoes. So I had to cage them a little bit. But yeah, I had lots of tomatoes on the plants as the season progressed, but nothing of any ripeness coming on. So yeah, as we're scrolling around here, you see there's lots of tomatoes. And I'm just waiting, again, patiently. And I was getting into the end of August, and I'm not having any red tomatoes, and it was kind of getting crazy. So I looked in here, and this was the end of August, and I did have one little tomato, and that's had a little bite mark out of it. So that's the only ripe tomato I had. Well, they were getting bigger and bigger, but the neighbor had warned me that September 12th, his mother's birthday, was kind of the first fear of frost down here. So I'm thinking, am I going to go the whole season and not get a single ripe tomato on the vine before the first frost? And this is early, late August, early September, and nothing. So I'm still wondering if this is even going to happen. But as I looked down, this was on September 12th, and I looked down and I saw some color. And I'm seeing some starting to change some color, and there we go. So on September 12th of this year, there is the first tomato that I picked off the plant that's a real tomato. So, yeah. And I was wondering, wow, maybe we'll get a couple. So waited about a week after this first tomato, and we had some more ripen up. As you can see, they're starting to turn, and they're getting more and more of them. But again, it's past possibility of first frost, and we're just now getting some tomatoes. So I'm kind of in a rush, checking the weather forecast every day and looking for the low temperatures, which is the lowest it's been is 39 degrees. So we haven't had a fear of frost yet, but it's been close. It could happen any time. But as you see here, as I'm looking through the plants, I've got a few that are starting to turn. So again, the forecast is the key here. I've got to be down here. I've got to be checking the weather, and I've got to be pulling them off if they have any color or any size to them here, and then if there's any fear of frost. But so far, so good. The forecast for the next week or so, 10 days, looks like it's not going to freeze. So I've got a chance to harvest some of these and maybe even get some more coming on before I just pick the bigger ones and bring them in the house to ripen. But yeah, there's finally some on here. And I was excited because I could actually pick some, and I want to put some in the freezer to start with because I know I'm going to have fresh tomatoes if I get them in the house. Even if it takes a little longer to ripen on the counter, I'll have some. But there's a beautiful tomato. I did squish it a little bit, but there's 4 really nice ones. And so yeah, we're in the middle of the tomato harvest, and it is at the time of first frost potentially. So that's pretty crazy. I never knew that I would be down here trying to get a ripe tomato in that late in the year. But that's the latest I've ever had, ripe tomatoes. And I'm going to take this group here that I have, nice little picking, and I'm going to preserve these just to make sure. I've already had a couple of BLTs, and man, they're good. There's nothing better than a fresh tomato. But you throw fresh tomatoes to skin them before you freeze them, and you throw them in boiling water, and it takes seconds before these skins are ready to come off. And you take a store-bought tomato and throw it in boiling water. It takes a little while, but these fresh ones, man, they peel immediately almost. So yeah, they were a little hot, so I had to turn the water on just so I wasn't burning my fingers. But I decided I'm going to try to preserve a few of these anyway and get them in the freezer. And I got them all boiled up and peeled off, and they do pale out when you boil them. So again, they're still great tomatoes. They're not as blood red as I like them fresh, but they're good. So I got them cored and I got them cut up. And got quite a few, so I probably have a gallon or so here to put in the freezer for the first harvest. And I did get a little bit more in a gallon. I got a gallon and 1 quart, so that's good. So I got those bagged up and cooled down, and I threw those in the freezer. And I always take all the leftovers, which are the skins and the cores, and I give them to the chickens. Now, this was in the evening, and the chickens already put themselves to bed. There's 3 inside the tiny little coop, but there's a little Americana that likes to sit on top of the coop. He doesn't like that crowded coop, and I'll show you a view of him real quick, or her, and there she is. So in the morning, they'll be eating those. They probably won't eat them tonight. But yeah, we got tomatoes coming on, and they're gorgeous, and they're very tasty, but I'm hoping the frost stays away so I can get a bunch. If not, I'll be picking a lot of green tomatoes. Well, thanks for watching this video, and if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you.